the lady's fingers fixed around her telephone as she talked earnestly to the 911 administrator. "I'm letting you know this dark youngster is creating problems." Her voice rose with each word, conviction apparent in her tone. The young person being referred to stood close by, uninformed about the blending storm. A dark SUV shrieked to a stop, drawing everyone's eyes. The city's chairman arose, her face covered with controlled rage. The informer's mouth fell open in shock as acknowledgement unfolded. The city chairman's voice trimmed through the strain. "Calm, however steely, that agitator you're revealing is my child." At that time, the lady's sureness disintegrated. She had committed a grave error that would wave a long ways past the road corner. As we ponder this reality story, buy in and remember to turn on the warning ringer for all the more day-to-day stories that should be heard. Hit that buy-in button and let us know where you're watching from in the remarks. We'd very much want to hear from you. Jeremiah rested up against an oak tree, partaking in the midday sun in Oakwood Park. He taken in, profoundly relishing the fragrance of newly cut grass and blossoming blossoms his mother had vowed to get him soon. What's more, he was content to stand by, lost in his considerations. A prickling sensation at the back of his neck pulled Jeremiah from his rye. He opened his eyes, filtering the park, until his look arrived on a moderately aged white lady. Situated on a close-by seat, Sarah, as he would later learn, was gazing at him with exposed doubt. Her lips squeezed into a dainty line. Sarah's eyes limited as she rose from the seat, her development solid also. Deliberate, she moved toward Jeremiah, her face a veil of assurance. "What are you doing here?" she requested, her voice sharp and accusatory. "This is a family park, not a spot for miscreants. Leave now, or I'm calling the police." The ramifications, in a way that would sound natural to her, stung Jeremiah. He felt a blend of disarray and outrage. Ascending inside him, "Ma'am, not bringing any hardship," he demanded, battling to keep his voice quiet. "I'm only sitting tight for my mother. I have each option to be here." Sarah's face flushed with outrage. She ventured into her tote, taking out her telephone with shaking fingers. Jeremiah's eyes extended in dismay. He stood up leisurely, holding his hands out in a plating motion. "Please, there's no requirement for that," he argued, dread crawling into his voice. "I'm coming clean with you. My mother will be here any moment." However, Sarah had made up her brain with a look of dreary fulfillment. She dialed 911, her eyes never leaving Jeremiah's face. "Hi, yes, I really want to report a dubious teen in Oakwood Park," she said into the telephone. Her voice carrying plainly in the calm evening air. Jeremiah stood attached to the spot, a virus wave of fear washing over him as Sarah kept on addressing the dispatcher, painting him as a danger. Jeremiah felt a significant feeling of treachery get comfortable his chest. He was being condemned for basically existing in a public space, his presence considered dubious exclusively due to the variety of his skin. The truth hit him hard. In practically no time, police would show up. And Jeremiah knew really quite well how rapidly such experiences could turn risky for youthful individuals of color. Such as himself, he implored. His mom would show up before long, even as he steeled himself for what was to come. As the shriek of tires punctured the air, two police cruisers moved to a stop, their lights painting the recreation area in rotating streaks of red and blue. Jeremiah's heart beat, a chill running down his spine as he watched the official methodology. He'd seen endless recordings of comparative experiences turned out badly, and presently he wound up at the focal point of one. The officials strolled toward them with estimated advances, their eyes checking the scene. Jeremiah stood entirely still, his hands noticeable at his sides, recalling his mom's illustrations on police communications. "What's the issue here?" the taller official inquired. His look moving among Jeremiah and Sarah ventured forward. Her words tumbled out. "This young fellow has been sauntering for a really long time. He would not leave at the point when I got some information about the family's well-being." Jeremiah felt a flood of dissatisfaction at Sarah's contorted form. He opened his mouth to talk. However, the second official sliced him off. "We'll get to you in a second, child," he said, his tone clarifying that Jeremiah's side was optional. The officials addressed Sarah, gesturing as she adorned her record As time passes, Jeremiah could feel what is going on, getting away from him. When they at last went to him, their looks were watched. "Okay, young fellow," the primary official said, "make sense of yourself. What are you doing here?" Jeremiah took a full breath. "I was simply trusting that my mother will get me." He cleared up battling for, keep his voice consistent. "I come here frequently. I wasn't annoying anybody." The officials traded a look. "Do you have any ID?" the second official asked, his hand laying on his belt. "No." Sir Jeremiah answered, mindful of how this would sound. "I'm just 14. I don't have a driver's permit." As the addressing proceeded with Jeremiah battled to explain his side, the official's incredulous tone and rapid-fire questions left him feeling overpowered. He detected the circumstance heightening the official's act. Turning out to be more unbending, a little swarm had accumulated, a few spectators recording with their PH. Jeremiah's tension developed, knowing this embarrassing second could wind up via virtual entertainment, just as the circumstance appeared to be ready to decline. The low thunder of a coming vehicle grabbed everybody's eye. A smooth, dark SUV pulled up to the recreation area entrance. The official's attitude moved immediately as the driver's entryway woke up, broadened in acknowledgement, and Jeremiah felt alleviation wash over him. He knew his mom had shown up as City Chairman Angela Thompson and gotten out of the SUV. Her presence telling quick consideration, Jeremiah saw the official fix. Sarah's mouth fell open in shock, the acknowledgement of her mix-up occurring to her face. The pressure all around snapped as everybody figured out that this conflict was going to veer off in a strange direction. City Chairman Angela Thompson arose out of the SUV, her presence quickly telling consideration. The recreation area fell quiet as she moved toward the social event, her eyes fixed on her child. Jeremiah's shoulders drooped with alleviation. Be that as it may, the pressure in his mom's jaw told him this was nowhere near over. What's going on here? City Chairman. Thompson's voice trimmed through the quiet, each word fresh, and estimated the officials snapped to consideration, their previous certainty dissipating. Sarah's accusatory attitude disintegrated under the city hall. Leader's steely look. City Hall Leader Thompson overviewed the scene, taking in the police cruisers, the group, and her child's inflexible stance. "I'd like a clarification. For what reason are my officials scrutinizing my child in a public park?" The taller official cleared his throat, his power supplanted with delay. "Ma'am, we got a call about a dubious individual, dubious city chairman." Thompson intruded on her eyebrow, curving. "What made my child dubious?" Sarah ventured forward, her voice shudder. "He was simply hanging around for a really long time, I thought." "You thought what precisely?" City Chairman Thompson's voice was peaceful yet sharp, "that a dark young person in a recreational area should be planning something sinister." Sarah's face flushed, her conviction dissolving. The city chairman turned around to the officials, her articulation a combination of disillusionment, furthermore, assurance. "Honorable men, this circumstance features a basic issue. Did you think about inclination in the call? Did you approach my child with a similar assumption of blamelessness you'd give some other resident?" The quiet that followed was stunning. City Chairman Thompson put a defensive hand on Jeremiah's shoulder, her voice mellowing. "Are all of you right, darling?" Jeremiah gestured, the tie in his chest at last releasing. "I'm okay, mother," he said, his voice consistent in spite of the waiting trepidation. City Chairman Thompson tended to the gathering, her articulation steadfast. This episode highlights the requirement for exhaustive against predisposition, preparing in our police force. Furthermore, local area no youngster ought to feel condemned for existing out in the open spaces. She fixed Sarah with a harsh look. "I trust this fills in as a reminder. Your unwarranted doubts might have had serious results. We should all analyze our predispositions and attempt to make a local area where everybody has a solid sense of reassurance and welcome." As the city chairman's words sank in the climate, in the recreation area, moved, the officials apparently berated, moved away from Jeremiah. Sarah murmured an expression of remorse, ready to meet anybody's eyes. City Chairman Thompson tended to the group. "Let this be an example. We should improve, And it begins with every one of us going up against our own inclinations and standing facing bad form. With that, she delicately directed Jeremiah towards their SUV, leaving behind a recreation area brimming with individuals with much to consider as they left. Jeremiah felt a blend of help and pride. His mom's mediation had not just safeguarded him, yet could have ignited the change their local area required. The occurrence in the recreation area had closed, yet its effect resonated through the local area city hall. Leader Angela Thompson knew this second could either develop divisions or flash significant change with Jeremiah next to her. She ventured forward to address the developing group. What we've seen today, she started her voice conveying, across the recreation area is a side effect of an unavoidable issue in our society, racial inclination. The group fell quiet, retaining her words over and over again. We permit unfound ed fears to direct our activities with destroying outcomes for guiltless individuals. Jeremiah, still apparently shaken, tracked down the solidarity to speak. I was simply staying here, getting a charge out of the day. He said, his voice acquiring resolve in minutes. I went from feeling protected to feeling like a lawbreaker. It's not right. The crudeness of Jeremiah's words resounded with numerous in the group mumbles of arrangement undulated through the assembled spectators, accentuated by gestures of understanding. Sarah, the one who had called the police, ventured forward. Her face flushed with humiliation as she conceded, I had nothing but good intentions. I was simply attempting to guard the recreation area. City Hall leader Thompson's eyes restricted. The fact is, ma'am, that it shouldn't make any difference whose child he is. Each individual has the right to exist in public spaces without being condemned. She turned around to the swarm. This episode has made it understood that we really want to do all the more today. I'm reporting the execution of far-reaching hostile to inclination, preparing for our police power and city representatives. The declaration evoked blended responses. Some gestured enthusiastically, while others traded suspicious looks. A man closed the front, got down on how might this preparing really change things. City Hall leader Thompson recognized the inquiry. Hostile to inclination. Preparing is certainly not an enchantment arrangement. Yet it's a pivotal initial step in bringing issues to light and giving our community workers with devices to perceive. Also, check their own inclinations. This occurrence will act as a genuine world illustration of how rapidly suppositions can grow into risky circumstances. As the group kept on discussing City Hall, Leader Thompson went to Jeremiah in a calm second. She maneuvered him into a delicate embrace. I'm so pleased with you, she murmured. You've taken care of this with more beauty than anybody ought to have. Jeremiah inclined toward his mother's hug, a blend of weariness and alleviation washing over him. Do you think things can transform? He asked delicately. City Chairman Thompson met her child's eyes. Change is never simple, she said immovably. Yet, minutes like these can be the flash that touches off genuine advancement. We simply must be courageous enough to move the discussion along as they advanced back to the SUV, abandoning a recreation area, humming with serious conversations. Plainly, the day's occasions had struck a line. The occurrence had constrained the local area to face the truth of racial profiling head-on, and the converse that followed would reverberate through city lobby police areas and supper tables across the city into the indefinite future as the sun plunged beneath the skyline, creating long shaded areas across Oakwood Park. The effect of that game-changing evening kept on resounding City Hall. Leader Thompson's words reverberated in the psyches of the people who had seen the conflict, uncovering the crude nerves of racial strain that actually beat underneath the outer layer of their local area. In the days that followed, discussions started AC across the city. Individuals wrestled with awkward insights about their own predispositions, rethinking communications they had once excused as innocuous. The nearby paper investigated the underlying foundations of racial profiling, while local area pioneers coordinated municipal centers to address the issue head-on. Jeremiah actually handling the heaviness of his experience, viewed as a startling partner in his school's discussion club. As he shared his story, his colleagues tuned in with rapt consideration, their eyes extending as they understood the gravity of what he had gotten through. It was a distinct update that the battle against bias was a long way from over, even in their apparently moderate town city. Chairman Thompson pushed forward with plans for extensive enemy of predisposition, preparing confronting pushback. However, standing firm in her conviction, we can't bear to be self-satisfied. She rehashed in meetings and board gatherings. Each crooked cooperation works on the groundwork of trust our local area has based upon as weeks passed. Little changes started to flourish. Cops participated in greater local area outreach programs, cultivating exchange and understanding. Neighborhood organizations showed indications of inclusivity, and another painting blossomed in Oakwood Park, commending the city's variety, social equality pioneer. Keon Harold's words reverberated profoundly. There are a large number of people of color sitting in jail who have been erroneously charged. That is the reason we need to address occurrences like this. Now, the episode in Oakwood Park had been a reminder testing us to look at our own predispositions and effectively pursue making a more just society. The way ahead isn't simple yet, it is essential. Our activities in the substance of bias shape the world we live in, and quiet is presently not in choice. Join our local area of individuals who have faith in equity, sympathy, and strong narrating by buying in. You're not simply watching, you're important for a development that values genuine stories and change. Add us to your everyday daily practice and make each story count. Buy in and go along with us every day for stories that have an effect.